Thank you, Dr. Sharma, uh, Mr. Azad, Mr. Pandey, Mr. Katyal, Monica ji, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the future. The future is bright, there is no doubt about that. And with the kind of initiatives that have been taken by the research institutes, by the government bodies, by the industry players, I believe that future is in the right hands as well. Just to talk about the potential, and when India would be 100 years old, which is to say that India, after gaining independence by 2047, our estimate says that we'll be a $26 trillion economy, while we are currently chasing a $5 trillion goal and dream, but $26 trillion is not far away. The per capita income is likely to go up to $15,000, and in the medium term, which is for the next 5 to 7 years at least, we are likely to be the fastest growing economy of the world. Now, the accelerators or the things which will drive this growth, infrastructure plays a very, very important role in that. The thrust of infrastructure which the government of India has, the thrust on manufacturing, on sustainability that the government of India has been having over the last few years will enable this growth that we are targeting by 2047. Specifically on infrastructure, if we were to look at the curve, the way the government has been investing in infrastructure from around 1.6% that was being invested till around 5 years back, 1.6% of the overall GDP in infrastructure, it has more than doubled now. The initiatives which have been announced around the National Infrastructure Pipeline, around Gati Shakti, while as consultants we may have our view about the pace of the delivery of these initiatives, but the intent is all in the right direction. And this is likely to have a huge impact. And when we talk about the investment in infrastructure, it is not just the direct investment in the infra sectors per se, but there is an indirect investment in a lot of other sectors, including the kind of growth that it can give to employment generation. That is huge. The potential to grow the MSMEs, which are linked to these sectors, that is also huge. And India as a country, the competitiveness which we need to be able to compete well in the global forum with the other countries, that is also something which is to a large extent driven by infrastructure. Urbanization, industrialization, everyone's aware of it, that there is a lot of investment happening over there. Connecting the rural India, which is close to around 70% of our population is still in rural India. Connecting them to the mainstream, there is infrastructure which is enabling that connection. The increased spend on the ease of movement. While currently the numbers are not great when it comes to the average speed which on-road transport our truckers are able to attain, it is around 30 kilometers lesser than what is the global average. Also reflecting into the cost of the movement, which is close to around 2 times what it is for the global counterparts. All these are challenges which currently are being addressed. Again, I believe that the pace is slow, but there is a lot which needs to be done to be able to improve it. And the steps are taken in the right direction. When we look at the growth which each of the infra sectors is experiencing, from roads and highways around 36% to the railways, which is around 25%, to the metro rails, again through the active PPP, this can be driven more. Even in the ports, the capacity and the utilization of that with the privatization of certain ports, we believe that the growth will be higher. Airports, again, the number of passengers handled annually will go up to around 40 crore or 400 million. And the investment in integrated or multimodal, like Mr. Azad was also talking about, the multimodal parks, logistics parks, that has also increased significantly. But the further acceleration is to be achieved through the removal of the bottlenecks. The policy coverage, in the morning, there was a talk about certain policies which the government of India has to uh, put in place, which will enable further growth of the sector. The supply challenges that are there and the private participation has to be encouraged further. Just in the interest of time, I would, without talking about the great things which the steel industry is doing, and in a great manner that the steel industry is contributing, I'd just like to point out few challenges that the industry is facing. Specifically, when it comes to the energy usage, our energy usage is amongst the highest, around 1.5 gigacalories more than the international standards. When it comes to the logistics and infrastructure, around $20 to $25 per ton is the costlier movement for the Indian steel players because of some of the challenges that I talked earlier. The thrust which the government has on recycling or using scrap, we are far from attaining those numbers. And in terms of the raw material challenges also, despite having certain reserves in the country, 85% of the coking coal, which is the major fuel used in steel industry, is imported. The expansion plans, everyone talks about 300 million by 2030. Again, ma'am, we believe that that goal is still far. It is likely to reach 2030 timeline, may go up to 2031 or 2032 because of the deferment, and not to do with just what steel industry has been doing, but COVID had its impact as well. Broadly, green steel, sustainable steel, that is something which the industry is focusing on. Using digital as an enabler to drive these improvements, and some of the initiatives taken by Mr. Pandey and his team, and using slag in agriculture, what the great presentation that we had. I think a lot of it can be enabled further through the use of digital and advanced analytics and machine learning algorithms. That's something which needs to be focused on. Customer experience, new product development, and the end-to-end resilient supply chain. These are some of the things which the industry has to focus on. In terms of the conclusion, I'd like to say that the active public-private participation has to be encouraged. The policies have to be in line with the growth targets that are there. The resources which are at our disposal, both the natural resources and the manpower. And again, Mr. Singh talked about training of or skilling of the manpower in the morning. That's again one of the biggest enablers. Sustainable operations and product innovation. These are the things which we believe industry has to focus on. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that there is a saying that the charity begins at home. You as industry players, I think it is high time that we start making right investments in some of these technologies to be able to drive the improvements and the growth that we are targeting. Thank you.